Welcome to Learning to Glow, a show about wellness, skin health, and self-development. I'm your host, Jess. I'm a mom, entrepreneur, and skincare expert. I'm so excited to share tips on how to achieve healthy skin and bring amazing guests in the field of health, fitness, aging gracefully, and personal growth. Let's explore all different ways we can take care of ourselves as women, both inside and out, to truly shine. So let's get glowing. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for being here with me today. I have a fantastic episode for you with a returning guest. Her name is Bria Gadd, aka the Period Whisperer. She is a functional diagnostic nutrition practitioner, integrative nutrition health coach, certified personal trainer, and she is also a podcaster of one of the 1% top podcasts. It is called The Period Whisperer. And I invited her to come back onto the show because of something that happened when it comes to women's health that is such a big deal that I wanted to have an expert to come on and share and explain it to us. We're going to be talking about the newly changed diagnosis name from PCOS to PMOS. And I asked her to come back and talk about this because she has so much experience, 17 years of experience in women's health, and her expertise with women's hormones. So I asked her, why is this such an important move in the medical industry to change the name? What are the differences of the old name, which is Polycystic Ovarian Syndrome, to the new name, which is Polyendocrine Metabolic Ovarian Syndrome? And as someone who's actually suffered from this syndrome, I am doing much better from it. I just like to share different ways that we can help ourselves improve the situation if you have it, the syndrome. Something to look out for when it comes to your daughters. And, I think there are a lot of lifestyle things that we can do, and when to know when to get help. Like, when do you need to get out and get help, and what do you ask for? So much great information in this podcast. You can find Bria in the show notes. I will link all of her information. And I will also link her past episode that she did with us, which was also incredible. She's so amazing. Check out her podcast. And I hope you love it as much as I did. Thank you. And here's Bria. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to our show. And Bria, thank you for coming back. This is your second time with us on Learning to Glow. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Jess. I'm really happy to be here. And I feel like I have to tell you, because I had you on my podcast a while back too, and I have learned so much about skin, and I have really implemented some of your things. In fact, one of my clients recently was like, "You're glowing. What's different with your skin?" I'm like, "Jess, tell me what I need to do, what's important." So thank you for all the tips and the way you help us as well.
I love that. Oh my gosh, you're so sweet. I love that so much. I feel like we're old friends at this point. You are the first person that I thought of when this big change happened. So we're going to talk about how PCOS is now PMOS.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is such a big deal. We need to talk about it. And you were the first person who came to my mind. And so I was so thrilled that you said you could come back. And what I wanted to do before we get into that is, just in case somebody didn't hear our last episode, can you tell us a little bit about you, and then we will get started. I will also link the episode that you were on before. So if you haven't listened to Bria's last episode, you must. I'll link that in the show notes, but go ahead and tell us a little bit about you.
Yeah. So I am what they call a functional diagnostic nutrition practitioner, which is just a whole bunch of words that no one understands. So I always like to say I really specialize in helping health conscious women who are doing the things and the things aren't working, put together the puzzle pieces of their health and just more deeply understand their bodies so they can get back to peak performance. Because the long and the short of my story is that I spent like a decade in fitness and nutrition as a trainer and a coach, and helped a lot of women learn how to eat less and move more until that stopped working, and really pushed me to find new answers, because I was in a position, like I think a lot of women as we head into midlife, where it felt like overnight I had this undeserved weight gain. I had anxiety for the first time in my life. I was having sleep issues. And I went to my doctor, who was wonderful and did all the tests and asked all the questions and was like, "You're the picture of health." And I felt like I was dying and falling apart. So the other thing I always like to say as well is, I really had, what I thought my fitness and nutrition dialed in. And I think that when we don't feel awesome in our body, our first instinct is to push harder, is to do more. And for a lot of women in midlife, their body starts to crumble even with more effort. And that can feel so confusing. So the big things that I really, work with women on are around understanding how all of the systems are connected in our body, and that impacts our end result. So how to optimize and get back to weight loss, back to energy gain without doing more. And how conventional labs only tell us a tiny part of the picture, that functional labs really give us a much clearer blueprint into understanding our body and to having a direct path to optimization.
And I thank you for sharing all of that. That's so amazing. I mean, a lot of this has to do with our hormones, right? And you're such an expert in the field of hormones, and having to deal with, like, I've been doing something that's been working for so long, and then all of a sudden I get into this new stage of life, and so many women can relate to it and have experienced it. I've spoken to them. So when it comes to Polycystic Ovarian Syndrome, that's what we were told before, that is the name of it, the syndrome. Can you tell us a little bit about what that is? And then maybe we can get into, now we have a new definition, we have a new name for it, and why this is, let's start with like what it is, and before we get into like why they made the change.
Yeah. So originally, as you said, it was called Polycystic Ovarian Syndrome, which really, I think what they kind of realized, of course, is that a name matters because it matters in how we treat and how we look at the body. And if you break down like Polycystic Ovarian Syndrome, really it's like multiple cysts on the ovaries. Like that's what, poly is multiple, cystic cysts. And it became a challenge because for years, because of the name, we were treating PCOS like it was an ovarian problem specifically, but it wasn't. In many women, they didn't actually have ovarian cysts. They weren't actually cysts. They were more immature follicles specifically. And it really implied that the ovaries were the problem, which, I think we're starting to really recognize in our healthcare system or sick care system, or however you want to call it, that it is a bit of a top-down strategy instead of an inside-out or bottom-up strategy. And that's a lot of what, when we think of like, blaming the ovaries, but really what was happening in ovaries sometimes for women was really a symptom of other things going on below. So all of these areas, I think, made doctors overlook the root cause of what was creating these challenges in women, which could be anything from stuck weight to really horrible periods to infertility to, skin issues and hair issues, like hair on the face and not as much hair on the head, and acne and things like that were causing a lot of problems. And ultimately delayed diagnosis in women without these obvious cysts that really weren't cysts in the beginning and weren't happening in many women.
Oh, that's so interesting. Now, if you were to experience, and I don't even know if this is possible, but if you had like ovarian cysts, but not some of the other symptoms, do you automatically have what it used to be called PCOS?
I think that was a higher index. It was required in order to have the diagnosis, was to have like multiple cysts in your ovaries.
Yeah.
So I don't know that it necessarily meant that no matter what, if you had cysts there, that it was this, but I think if they were able to ultrasound and see these multiple cysts, then that would be the way they would take you down the path, along with maybe, struggles with, again, weight gain or more androgenic symptoms, like, again, the hirsutism, what do they call it? Hair, kind of more hair on the face, Wow, I'm losing that word today.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was, and really again, the heavy painful periods, which is where they kind of came up with the solution of birth control for a lot of women.
Okay, so now we're talking about PMOS,
Yeah.
which is, they're talking more like a metabolic issue.
Yeah.
So talk to us about that and who that includes.
Yeah, I love this because so they've now changed it to Polyendocrine Metabolic Ovarian Syndrome, which again, when we break that down, is like, okay, multiple endocrine. Endocrine is like our whole hormone system. And, we throw out this word hormones a lot, especially in midlife for women. And I think we automatically think sex hormones, but we have a lot of hormones in our body. So it really honors the fact that it's not just an ovarian hormone problem, but that it considers the whole endocrine and the entire metabolic system of the person who's struggling with these things. So I think like priority one is recognizing how much more it then shifts from like, oh, we're just looking at the ovaries and isolating the ovaries to now we're going to look at the entire endocrine and metabolic system in a woman. And I think that's so important because, again, all of a sudden it expands us from like being hyper isolated on one problem. Just like I think we run into this issue a lot in our traditional healthcare system where it's like, oh, well, I'm not feeling well and I'm having like digestive issues. So, okay, we're going to send you a gastroenterologist, but I'm also having period issues. So, okay, we're going to send you a gynecologist, but I'm also having thyroid issues. So I'm going to send you an endocrinologist, which then really is just a bunch of people looking at one isolated part of the body. So this new definition, I think, encourages us to look at the body in a much broader way, which is really important because I don't think what we are taught as women or men or people is that all of our metabolic system, like our hormones, our immune system, our digestion, our detoxification, our energy production, our nervous system, they all work together like an orchestra. And if you picture an orchestra and they're playing a tune and all of a sudden the drums go off, the entire orchestra goes off and starts playing an entirely different tune. And you cannot just correct the beat of the drum to bring everyone back on to that exact tune. We have to look at the entire orchestra and tweak every single part. So it helps us, I think, like the name alone helps us recognize, okay, this is a full system situation. We need to look at all of the systems of the metabolism and of the endocrine system to better understand where are all of the little like leaks in the energy pipelines to the body coming from that's now creating these symptoms that a woman is having and may have these follicles, may have the hair on the face, may have those more androgenic symptoms, may have stuck weight, that kind of piece. So yes. It helps me really step back. Yeah. Sorry.
But is this I think this is where people like you are so important because you are able to take a step back and realize that there are symptoms that are all at play here. And that's why so many people have multiple issues because so many things are affected. I have hypothyroidism. I also had PCOS. So, it's like, but then like you said, you're going to all these different doctors and a lot of times we're told like, this is something that we're treated by an OBGYN. Like that's where you go first. And one of the things is go on birth control. So I think one of the things that I would love for you to talk about and help us with today is like, where can we start like lifestyle wise too? Mm-hmm. And, that is something that is more rare to get that kind of guidance when you're going to a gynecologist. Like that's not their wheelhouse. So where can we start if we're having some of these issues? Because there's going to be a lot of women listening who are like, I don't want to go on the birth control pill. Like that's not a medicine solution for me. Yeah. So I'd love to talk about that.
Yeah, for sure. And I love that you said that because although it can reduce symptoms in women, it does not fix the root cause of why we have this issue. So now it's like going to quiet some of the hormonal aspects. It's not going to fix what's the reason it's there and it's not going to go away because of it. And also all medications come with a cost of doing business. So when you're on birth control, it might be the right thing for you if you're willing to pay the price of the fact that it's going to drive up your sex hormone binding globulin. It could create more toxins in the body. Like there's a lot of things there. So this is where I think, I hope this gives a breath of fresh air to women who are struggling with it. And maybe it'll be frustrating because I don't want to make things so generalized. I do think we all have to customize something. But if we understand that every system in our metabolism is connected, like that orchestra, and those are really the pipelines of energy into the body, and that our symptoms typically come when the energy supply into a body no longer meets the energy demand of a body. So for some people, they could be, sleeping well, eating nourishing food, but these systems, something is off in the gut. So we're not getting, the nutrient absorption that we need. We have had a lot of chronic stress in our life. So now we have this insulin resistance, all of these pieces. Now, then, if you almost imagine the hoses of energy into your body having leaks or like kinks in them, we're just not getting that energy, which is really where ultimately our symptoms start to come about. So the solution for all people, I think, who are having symptoms, whether it's PMOS or whether it's, just even hormonal issues in perimenopause, is to first and foremost reduce the energy demand to the body and make sure what is within your control of your energy supply to be really solid. So step one is like, let's look at our life and understand what is costing us more energy than we need, just as if you are reducing like a financial debt on a credit card. We're going to look at everything we do in our life and eliminate the non-necessities to begin with. So for a lot of women, especially like in our age box, and we're talking about women over 35, that might be pulling back on intense fitness because it's not an investment of energy that we have, that we're able to pay right now. It might be really prioritizing like just nice functional movement, especially for those of us who sit in front of a screen all day for work or sit for work all day. So really simple things like making sure you're getting, and again, I think this is always different for everyone, but I'll throw out some like, easy things to start with, where it's like getting those 7,000 to 10,000 steps in each day. And for someone with, PMOS, where insulin resistance can be a big driver of that, can we go for a little walk after each of our meals? Can we prioritize calming the central nervous system through things like yoga or functional movement like mobility and stability work, which a lot of people skip? I think another piece where a lot of people struggle with their energy consistency, of course, is really consistent blood sugar by eating 3 balanced meals a day instead of like this skipping meals and then snacking all day, or trying to not eat breakfast so that you can save your calories for later in the day. Like we almost have to treat our bodies like a baby. Even though our brains have evolved so much, like our bodies are still like a prehistoric engine that has changed a whole lot. And we understand with our animals and our children, like we feed them on a schedule, and that's what we need for consistent energy again. So step one is always really looking at like, okay, what are our foundational health habits? What energy can we stop wasting for now? And again, I think we can speak to like inflammatory foods. I know we all like to have our 80-20 balance in foods, and I'm a big believer in that, but sometimes it can go a long way to eliminate certain foods for a period of time, simply because they're not only, there's a double negative for you, not only not providing energy to the body, but they're costing the body more energy every time we consume them.
Yeah.
So that
did you have okay. Well, you know what? I have a question about the nutrition part of it. For specifically these types of issues that we're talking about, I know you mentioned having, breakfast, but if we're taking out some of the things that we might be considered like, I don't know, inflammatory processed, what are some examples of things that would really be helpful for a woman going through this type of these type of symptoms?
Yeah, for eating breakfast specifically.
Yes.
Yeah. So I really find that women with hormonal symptoms, like our front line defense again is balancing blood sugar. So what do we need to do that? That is typically a good amount of protein, fat, and fiber in each of our meals. So I think if you're aiming for like 20 to 30 grams of protein in your very first meal of the day, so within 2 hours of waking, you're setting your blood sugar up for success all day. So some examples, like if you eat dairy, I find like, I mean, first of all, eggs are a good killer if you can handle eggs. Like if you don't have digestive issues with eggs, Greek yogurt's a really nice win in the morning. Protein shakes can be a great like option if you're not if you don't find you're that hungry in the morning or you're really rushed in the morning. But if you're a meat eater, I mean, I'm not a meat eater, but I would be eating meat in the morning if I was a meat eater. So, really trying to put into the body the most stabilizing nutrients that you can first thing, which is typically going to be protein and fiber with some fat.
I love that. It's really good advice. And I think like a few things that I have a few friends with PMOS,
Yeah.
and it's so funny that you say that because they are skipping breakfast.
Mm.
They're like, no, I don't want to eat. I don't have the hunger in the morning. And I get that because I used to be that too. Like my body was trained to not be hungry in the morning. And then excessive exercise. And like they have just this. And I get it too. I get that too. That is something that is like 5 days a week, sacrificing sleep to get up to do those really, really challenging workout classes. And then feeling like that stuck weight that you were saying, like, it's just really hard to get this weight loss going. But then right off the bat, some of the things that you're recommending, they are currently doing. So those are really good tips because you think, it's like that whole thing that we grew up with of just like the less is more, like less calories, harder workouts, like, and we don't, I mean, I think we're learning more now, but we don't realize like we're hurting ourselves while we do that.
Yeah. And it's not our fault. Like, I mean, first of all, I've been in the wellness industry for 17 years, like working with women. And was how my brain was also trained. This is what culture teaches us to do. And I think it's always important to start to honor the fact that women's health is like Latin. Nobody speaks it. Nobody teaches it. Well, we're starting to see more teachers, which I think is really, really wonderful, but nobody's talking it. So, and yet it is the root of all health language. Like women's health really is the beginning of all life here in this planet, the way Latin is the root of all language. So it's super normal for us to have these habits because that is what we've been trained to think. And it completely works in the opposite of how the female hormone rhythm needs to consume food. You're much better off front loading your day with calories. And this is what I do with all of my clients and myself. If I don't eat 30 grams of protein at breakfast, I work from home. I will be in that pantry any break I can, like chocolate chips, like whatever I can, because I'm like looking for something because I didn't give my body the energy it needed at a time, the beginning of the day when it's going to need energy all day long.
Yeah. And I think I love that you talk about blood sugar because isn't that just such a big issue too for women who are dealing with this syndrome, like not having a balanced blood sugar and what that can lead to. Do you have, and I have to mention this because I forgot before we hit record, but you just went to Greece. Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah. So for people who are like, and I have a friend who's on a weight loss journey and she's documenting everything online and I see her, she's gone on so many vacations. She's still keeping with her plan. She's still on track. She's enjoying her trips thoroughly. But I just before we move forward, I'm like, if you're, we want to implement these lifestyle changes. We want to be consistent with them because we want to see these results and we want to feel better. But like we have an event or we have a vacation or we have summer, I always am like loosey goosey. I feel like I'm always wonky in summer. What are some tips? Like, how did you do it when you went to Greece? Like, because you were there for a little bit, like, tell us, give us some tips on like, how do we do this? Even when we have something come up and we want to enjoy ourselves, but we don't want to like lose the plot.
Totally. And I think the reality is in a healthy, optimized body, we have resilience. Like we have resilience where if you go on vacation and things completely change, really the body should be able to adapt to that and handle that. So one, if your body is not adapting to that and handling that, I think that's a really clear sign that like, okay, we have some deeper functional health debt or metabolic chaos issues, and we need to address those things. Two, I think that, it is a really annoying task, but I think it's so beneficial if you can just spend 2 weeks tracking what you eat, not your calories, what you ate, when you ate, and how it made you feel for 1 to 2 hours afterwards. Because fundamentally, your food, your meal, your 3 meals should keep you full and satisfied for 4 to 5 hours until you're hungry again. Meaning you're not thinking about food, you're not looking around for food. If it does not, we have to revisit if that fuel mixture, like the amount of proteins, the amount of fat, the amount of carbohydrates is right for you or not. And that's where this individualization, I think, is really important. When you do this simple exercise, Jess, you start to see very quickly patterns like, oh my gosh, well, if I eat 30 grams of protein at breakfast, I'm not thinking about food for 4 to 5 hours. I mean, how freeing is that?
Yeah.
And I think that information alone helps us quiet all the noise around us about all the different ways of eating and what's good and what's bad and this and that, which I also fall prey to, and allows us to be like, wait a second, I know that when I go to Greece, that if I like make sure I'm getting some good Greek yogurt in and some eggs in the morning, there's my 30 grams, that I'm going to be able to make smarter decisions. Because the only time we really get bingy is when we're underfed or we're exhausted. If we're not fueling the body properly, like you might still, like when I was over in Greece, like I might be like, hey, I'm going to have some like chocolate dipped baklava after a meal, but I'm not going to have 6 of them. I'm going to have one because I'm going to be like, oh, I'm actually really full because I ate a certain amount of protein and that's what my body needs. So I think it is important to recognize that vacation provides us with 2 things that we don't get regularly in life that is really helpful to our health: more opportunity for rest and more opportunity for pleasure, which are 2 really key energy drivers in our body. So one, you should take advantage of having fun and resting more on your vacation. And then if you just start your day in a stable way, I really think you're going to find that you're not needing to go off the rails, when you're, restricting so much.
Yeah. And then you get to enjoy the culture and the food of that place, especially when you go to Europe, because the food is so clean. And like, you're in Greece, you're eating. I remember when I went to Greece, I feel like the food was so healthy. It was so delicious. It was so fresh, and it didn't have all the junk that we have in it here in the States. So I think like, yeah, you want to experience that. I kind of did the same thing when we went last year to Europe, and it was like, I kind of started my day with my breakfast and my protein. And then I would take tastes of anything that I wanted. Like there was no restricting, but I loved the feeling of starting my day like that foundation of feeling like I'm going to eat something that makes me feel good. And it'll just make me literally like, that's sometimes just my goal. I just want to feel good.
Yeah.
And that's what it did. And it just like, I brought protein powder because I'm like, I know I'm probably going to be needing a little supplementation. And I just brought a bag of protein powder, and that just made the world of difference for me on my trip.
Yeah. And it's just one tool. You're like, I'm just going to drag one tool with me. No big deal. And you have it as a backup, which I think can be, really supportive. I'm a big believer. I start all my day with like a huge like hydration greens. So that's the one thing I'll take with me anywhere. And it's how you start. I think that really makes a huge difference for most people, because willpower isn't a muscle, it's an energy source. You run out of energy and your brain is going to be calling for quick energy, which is going to be a simple carbohydrate. And you cannot override that instinctual need for energy. It's really hard in the body. So don't get there.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. Those are really, that's like such a huge, powerful tip for people who are going through this. And, I'm thinking of people in my mind, in my life that I know that, I mean, if they could implement just these couple tips, like that's huge.
Yeah.
So because of people that are dealing with that stubborn weight loss, because of some of these issues that they're having, what are your thoughts? And I think we touched upon this maybe on the last episode, but there's going to be people who are like, maybe GLP-1s are helpful here in this situation. What are your thoughts about that?
Yeah, so I do use peptides in my practice. I think that there is a great time and place for them. However, I like to explain it like this: is they're like the icing on top of a cupcake. It's what makes a cupcake a muffin, right? Like a muffin, a cupcake.
Yes.
We need that muffin, that stable foundation of optimization. So first and foremost, we need to make sure, again, that these habits are in place, because GLP-1s specifically need receptors in the body. And if we have a bit of a dumpster fire body because we don't have these foundational basics in place, then we don't have those receptors at peak performance. Also, if we are having any issues with, our gut, if we are not having insulin resistance issues, then we're screaming a message into a body that is really what a GLP-1 is. It's a messaging into the body that either it can't receive, or that it's not ready for, or that it doesn't need. So I think there's a beautiful time and place, but what I always like to say to women is like, priority one, let's go through this step one. Let's make sure your habits are solid there. And that's where we often need some customization and help. And step two, test, don't guess. I have worked with many clients that have come to me who've been on GLP-1s for 6 months or more, and their cortisol is completely flat, and they're not losing weight, and they're absolutely exhausted, and their hair is falling out, and they don't even have insulin resistance. So it's like, well, this isn't the problem. This is one solution for one type of problem in a body. And if you don't have that problem, we really shouldn't be using that medication.
Ugh.
So that's an important piece. I'm totally think it can be a powerful and amazing tool and the icing on the cake for many people. But let's just make sure that we're not wasting money, that we have the foundations, and that we know we need it. Because if you don't need it, then you're going to cause more problems, and you're also not going to get the results that you need. And we're missing another leak in a hose somewhere that has to get fixed.
That's such a good analogy. And I think you just really make the case for how important it is to, like, you start here. We don't start there. We don't start with that stuff. And you kind of figure out what your needs are and what order that you go in. You need to work with somebody to help you figure that out. I feel like that's such an important message, because I can see people that, it's so popular right now. My friend just went online and got some without even having to talk to a doctor. And she was pretty thin to be getting it. And so I don't know. I worry about doing it in the right way. I feel like you said it is a tool. It's a message for your body, but you want to be careful with it, because there can be side effects. Like let's be honest, it's not like it's totally without any risk, right?
Yeah. And I think, again, some of the beautiful aspects are that it is bioidentical to what our body can make. But there was, I can't remember his name right now, but there was a functional practitioner that was really famous for saying there's no such thing as good or bad drugs, only good and bad relationships to drugs. And we have to look at what our intention is and our relationship for that drug. If your whole intention is, I'm going to force my body to lose weight, or that is why I want to do this, you're missing the mark, and it's it's a bit of a toxic relationship, because you don't lose weight to get healthy. You need to get healthy to lose weight. And that's another message that I think has been confused and created a big myth for us in society. So again, if we know, hey, oh, I'm doing all the things and the things aren't working, and I've now looked at all the systems of my body, and one of the broken systems is insulin resistance and inflammation, hey, this could be a really good tool for you to use for 3 to 6 months and then cycle off of, because the body should be able to do it on its own.
Oh, I like that you said that, because I was going to ask, and some people I've heard say you have to do it forever. Like you can't cycle off. Tell us about how you do that with your clients. Like, how are they able to cycle off?
Yeah, absolutely. So truthfully, most of the research that I have read is that they absolutely should be, at the very minimum, because we get receptor fatigue. Okay. So that's why people have to keep going higher and higher and higher, because we get this, that message has to now get louder and louder and louder. The same way we get insulin resistance, it's like a receptor fatigue in the body. So now you're just creating it in another way for an issue. But ultimately, again, what a peptide does, like a GLP-1, is it sends a message to the cells that maybe it's not been getting, simply because chronic stress in some system of the body has now broken that message. So it's like a broken telephone situation. If we're doing the proper foundational pieces to support insulin sensitivity, to support muscle definition, to support a healthy gut, and we repair that communication, that broken telephone, we shouldn't have to keep repairing it. It's repaired. And now it should be able to support it on its own. So for me, my clients, it's always like, let's do 3 months, and then we take a break and see how we feel. And if the body is not, if that messaging system hasn't repaired, what else do we need to do to repair it? And then maybe we do 3 more months.
Oh my gosh, I love that. I feel like your system is perfect for somebody who is dealing with this. So can you please tell us, because I love your approach, and I think this would be so helpful for people to come and talk to you and say, okay, like, how can you build that foundation? Like, what can I do? Because you do need, everybody's so unique. Like, what they need is different from someone else. So tell us about what it's like to work with you. Like, what do people, like, how do you work with clients? Because I know people are going to want to learn more about what you do.
Thank you. Yeah. So I like to work with my clients for 6 months for the most part. I mean, I do offer a couple of different packages, because I think, although I do sometimes work with 20-year-olds, primarily I'm working with like 40 and 50-year-olds, and our body didn't get here overnight. So it takes a little longer. So although it's amazing to see what can change in a 20-year-old body in 30 days, for most of us, the debt repair we need to do in a body takes 4 to 8 months. So that's where I like to do that. And we're always going to always start with lifestyle first. Are we doing the things that get us out of debt? And then the second step is, like I said, test, don't guess. So we're always going to run 3 functional labs. Maybe it might tweak a little bit depending on the person, but I want to be able to see, how is that pipeline for your hormones, your immune system, your digestion, detoxification, energy production, and nervous system? That's going to give us a full look at all of those systems. Your thyroid, your adrenals, your ovaries, your gut, your liver, everything we need to know to see where are the kinks in the hose and how do we get back. And what I find is most my clients when we go through their labs, are always like, Bria, this was so validating. And they're compliant, and I remember it was a very humbling experience the first time I had my labs done, just because I couldn't lie to myself or like FOMO into another plan, because my body said this right here and it was correlated to my symptoms. So now I'm like, oh, well, this is my problem and this is what I need to solve. So I think that is one of the most powerful reasons my clients get great results, is because we're not guessing anymore.
Yeah. And I think a lot of times when you go to a regular doctor, you're getting not all of the labs that you need, or sometimes they're not reading them like as deeply as we need them to be read. And so it feels like, oh, there's nothing wrong on paper, but I'm not in an optimal situation. I'm not like feeling well, like I'm having all these issues. And I think also, I know a lot of women, their motivation for wanting change fast is the weight gain, because that is uncomfortable. But that's just like our training of being alive in this world. You know, it's
Yeah.
like the most important thing is our weight, and it's not. And so I can see how wanting to just jump on something that's just like, let's just take care of this weight at any cost, when we are at the age where we need to start paying attention to our longevity and our health. Like that will come, you know. I feel like that the weight part always comes when you get to figure out what is really going on. So
it does. It's like the canary in the coal mine, unfortunately, is again, but this is that kind of lie or that myth that I think we've been sold, like the wrong bill of goods, where we think, oh, if I lose weight, I'm going to feel better. But really, you have to feel better to lose weight. I mean, even though I think this whole calories in and calories out fundamentally doesn't work if you're in health debt, like if we're having these leaks in the pipelines, it doesn't work. When we have a functioning metabolism, that is how we change the body and lose weight, and the body releases those pieces. But in order to feed muscle, we have to be eating correctly, digesting the food that we're eating correctly, absorbing the nutrients that we're eating. We have to repair that muscle. We have to be sleeping properly. We have to have the energy to work out. So there's a lot more to it than this energy in and energy out idea. And I think it's important to recognize, like, again, our doctors have a very important job. And listen, if I had an emergency situation or needed to have a surgery, I would be going to the doctor. But their job is to tell you, do you have a diagnosable condition or not? Not, are you optimized? Yeah. So, and where is this coming from? I think that's a big missing piece too. So if we can start to wrap our head around those kind of two ideas of like, okay, doctor says I'm not diseased. Wonderful. Got to be a functional problem. Let's go a layer deeper and work with someone that'll run functional labs like me. And also, if I'm doing the things and the things aren't working, I'm missing a piece of the puzzle, because the body is designed to respond and survive.
Yeah. And sometimes we need people to help us with that. Like, it's just, we don't, you know, the average person, we don't know all of this, and we haven't been taught all of this. Like, you're trained in all of this. So tell us where we can find you, where everybody can find you. And I'll also leave it in the show notes.
Yeah. Awesome. I think best place is just come right to the website, briatheperiodwhisperer.com. You know, I have some great small things in there. You can access the podcast even there, which talks a lot more about this. You can book a free call for us to have a conversation. You can access all my socials from that spot, but go hang out, learn something, understand your body more, because I have really learned through my journey, and now with working with thousands of women, is that if we slow down, follow the path, you always will get results.
Yeah, it's so amazing. Go follow Bria. You are incredible. Thank you for sharing with us again on this podcast and sharing about this topic, because it's so confusing, and breaking it down like this and having a place to start is like so hugely helpful. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me, Jess.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode. Please subscribe and review so we can reach more people who want to learn to glow alongside us. See you next time.